and welcome to The Point. It is Thursday, June 17th, 2021. Thank you to those of you joining us on the GBN, Grenada Broadcasting Network's Facebook page, the Grenada Broadcasting Network's YouTube channel, the website www.gbn.gd, GBN TV channel 7, 11, and 20. Good morning to the listeners of Classic 105.5, 105.9, and all the folks joining us on Party Grenada and Go to FET Facebook pages. This morning, my virtual guest is President General of the Grenada Technical and Allied Workers Union, GTAU, Mr. Andre Lewis, and he's here, of course, to give us some of the latest updates in relation to industrial matters happening across the island. Good morning, Mr. Lewis. How are you, sir?
Hi, good morning to you, Blossom, and good morning to the listening and viewing public in this trying times.
Yes,
I sure hope that everyone is taking care of themselves and doing the best to keep ourselves as healthy and safe as is possible.
Hope you're doing the same
while we preserve our jobs.
Hope you're keeping safe as well, sir. We have lots to cover this morning. The industrial climate does not seem to be letting up anytime soon, with matters happening, various businesses, companies across the island. So this morning we're going to start with one of the most recent ones to rear its head, St. George's University. This week, I think it has come to a head with some workers being restricted from entering the compound in the wake of the vaccination campaign that has been rolling out since today's Thursday, so that has been Monday, Tuesday. So since then, has there been any leeway? Or a matter of fact, let's start from the beginning for the people who may not be aware. What's the situation in SGU that some of the workers have been barred from entering the premises of SGU?
Okay, so let me once again say good morning to everyone, and let me admit up front that this is a very complex period as we try to balance lives, because lives comes first. As we try to balance health and we try to balance livelihood. And we need to juxtapose that in all of these challenges with the mantra of the Technical and Allied Workers Union, and I dare say the labor movement, and I dare say all working class, the preservation of jobs. Now to the specific issue. SGU has been on shutdown since roughly about February, March of last year. And the union is on record. The union is on record of praising and complimenting the school for carrying the workers, the vast majority of them who are at home, for the past 15 months. And no one has lost any pay, any income. Not only this, the union and the school, in order to be able to maintain the income of the workers, the union had to go into make some compromise positions relative to the collective agreement, things as overtime, hours of work, etc. And these were discussions that we had to engage the school in, give feedback to the workers. Not every worker was satisfied, that we had to make compromises. But at the end of the day, we were able to get the workers to understand what we call the bigger picture. So that if, for instance, there is a worker who work 5 days for the week, or 1 day for the week, because there are some workers who only came in for 1 day or 2 days, and that worker were to work overtime 1 day, but didn't work for the rest of the week, we were able to get an agreement that this worker will not claim overtime. I just give you an example of the compromises that we have to make. And while we had to do that, although it was the right of this individual worker to claim overtime, and if the workers had insisted and didn't come to an understanding with the union, we were obligated to ensure that the school paid them overtime. But then the school, on the other hand, could have said that because you work for only 1 day, I will only pay you 1 day and I will not pay you for the whole month. So all of the SGU workers were paid for the whole month, even if some didn't work any time for the month at all. And those who work not for the whole month, but may have worked 1 hour overtime, we had to find that balance. So I'm going back there to show you that there have been ongoing engagement with the school. Because one of the bigger worries that all the workers had and the union had was what would happen to the livelihood of these workers who, because the school have shut its doors, so to speak, in terms of physical presence of the workplace, what would happen? Where a number of other companies, for instance, the hotels, Spice Inn and others, did not pay their workers. And we represent Spice Inn workers, which I will come to. At the same time, the SGU impact also impacted Real Value Supermarket, where we represent. So for TAU, we are dealing with a multiplicity of challenges that all depends on what you do here can impact down the road. So we have had to have a global view of managing these challenges. And I must say that this is something that we do because it is a duty for us and it's a commitment to us, it's an ideological position for us in terms of looking after the working class interests. So that earlier this year, in March, the end of March, about the 23rd of March, about SGU sort of signaled its intention to wanting to come back on stream, taking into account that they need to get a business going back, having to come to a position as to determine what to do with the workers, etc. And looking at coming back, they indicated that in this particular period, in terms of all of the protocols, vaccination is one of the protocols that is in place to deal with the safety of the workplace. It is important to note that since late last year, at the end of 2020, the TUC have always advocated, TAU have always advocated, TUC have always advocated that we do not accept or do not believe that vaccination must be made mandatory and ought not to be mandatory for at least what you call existing workers. Because when they were employed up to the period just before COVID, vaccination was not a term and condition of their employment. It is important to note that some employers, as you included, and most employers do not share that view. As far as they are concerned, and I would not be advancing SGU position here, let me make the point. As much as I can avoid it as possible, they will have to advance their position. Yes, I mean, they will have to make the argument, but because we are engaged in discussions with them, I think it is only fair to advance to you and the listening public and the viewing public some of the issues that we had to confront. As far as they are concerned, is that they are not making vaccination mandatory, but they have to keep their workplace safe. And they have accepted, like the rest of the world, that vaccination is part of the process of making the workplace safe. In terms of disclosure, I think I should do that up front. I am fully vaccinated. And I have taken a vaccine on the following basis. I have concerns, probably like every other person, but I have accepted that if I am vaccinated, I've accepted the science. I've listened to the Pan American Health Organization, that has been the one that has been advising us in the region here on our health issues. I listen to my doctors, because these are the people who advise me what medicine to use if and when I need medicine that I have absolutely no idea about because I'm not a doctor. And I listen to the WHO. And I have accepted that if I'm vaccinated, if I were to contract the virus, the possibility of getting sick to the extent of being hospitalized or dying is significantly been reduced. Would it stop me from being infected? No, I've accepted that it will not stop me from being infected at this moment, based on what the science has reached. But it will minimize the risk of I being absent from work. Because once I am sick to the point of not being able to work, I'll be absent from work. And if I am hospitalized, the chances of dying will significantly increase. Yes? So with all of these things in mind, this is where the discussion started. We indicated to SGU that, one, we do not accept that any worker, any existing worker should have vaccination as a mandatory condition for continuous employment. We advance SGU that, here what? The fact that the protocol has worked, physical distancing, hand sanitizing, the mask, etc., and most importantly, the aspect of testing, using the PCR test, that should continue for the people who do not want to be vaccinated. Because we also accepted that there are people who would be as doubtful as I am, are probably more doubtful as I am, but will take the vaccine because they will come to that conclusion that it is the best bet in the scheme of everything that is happening. And when you look at what is happening in the US and then in Trinidad, etc. So what we agreed to do, as we have advanced elsewhere publicly, is we have called upon the school to use suasion, arguments, right, to show the benefits of being vaccinated, and to use education, and so much so that's what we did. So I need to give that scenario. We, coming out of the discussions that we were having backward and forward, the school agreed to hold a town hall meeting. That is where the school owners and management, top management, expose themselves to questions and queries from workers. The union was not involved because we felt it was a matter for the school and the workers, give the workers an opportunity to engage as part of an informed decision-making process. Subsequently to that, on the 29th, 27th, and 28th of April, so we're talking about we are not yet into May, right? Remember, the deadline is the 15th of June, yes? And no one, everyone up to the 14th didn't, even if you are not vaccinated, there were no risk to you relative to SGU, yes? The union organized with the school to hold meetings with what we call independent medical practitioners in Grenada to engage the workers so that, and in the union presence, so that the workers can ask whatever questions or concerns that they have, because we all know that there are different number of things being said around the place. That even myself, if I'm not careful, sometimes get more confused, but I have to remain focused on the issue. Okay, there are all different things being said. So that engagement took place over a 3-day period. Now that is with what you call independent medical persons engaging the workers. Because our view is that before we engage the workers to make a final decision, it is important.
Mr. Lewis appears...
The vaccine, what it may or may not do, etc. But more than that, as part of the what we call an organized and methodical process of engagement, we subsequently met with the workers 3 separate days to address industrial relations matters now. So rather now than the union, apart from the union advancing its position on the issue of vaccine and non-mandatory vaccine, we engage the workers, and these were communicated again to the school, right? But bearing in mind that the deadline for the decision to be made about whether you'll be vaccinated or not was the 14th, let me say the 15th of this month, which was Tuesday gone. But more than that, recognizing that some workers might, and understandably so, let me indicate that all of us are concerned. All of us, whether I'm vaccinated or not, although I'm vaccinated, I am concerned, and others are concerned as to what may happen to people if there's an outbreak or if there isn't an outbreak. And even in that context, the aspect of the guaranteeing of income, the preservation of jobs. And therefore, we advise the workers that they ought not to resign. If you resign, you will be taking away the responsibility from the institution, in this case, SGU, or the employer. So although I'm addressing SGU, I am wishing that the listening public would be able to appreciate this and follow this so that workers in other workplaces can take a cue from this. Because SGU is a focus of attention right now. But these will be issues that will be confronted or has been confronted in other workplaces. If you resign, the employer will be free to say, I will not engage the union or any other body, any lawyer, any representative to discuss what should be done to you because you resign. Resignation, where you say that I, Andre Lewis, hereby tender my resignation, right? And I thank the employer for whatever years of that I was able to work. So all those have been communicated. we have also advanced that we will only know for sure. And we told the workers that. I met with the workers as I was one of the people who met with the workers. We had very open and frank discussions, heated discussions, but all in the good spirit of trying to come with what is best for everyone, looking after the workers' interests. That, look, in this particular period, let us focus, right, on what we can do to ensure that we maintain our income, we maintain our employment. So much so that SU's original position, as far as we understood it with our engagement with them, is that immediately if you didn't take the vaccine, your chances of being told that you are no longer employed with the company was great. Through our intervention, we pushed that back and put that off the table because we advanced that it is unreasonable to expect that everyone will be in a position to make a decision one way or the other. Some might be able to come to a decision much earlier than others. And other people, those who require a longer period, ought to be given that time. So as we speak, there is no worker who has been dismissed in SGU as a result of this. That was the company's original intention. We tried to push back the dates. So for instance, originally, I think one of the earlier dates that the company were looking at for enforcing whatever it believed to have been its right may have been April, early April. Then they pushed it back, I think, to the middle of April. Then it was the 1st of June, and now the 15th of June. And then all of these, the union had been pushing back. As a matter of fact, in some of our last engagements, we strongly demanded of the school that all workers must be guaranteed income, right? Without any disbarring of that position. The school obviously have rejected it. We have not given up on the matter. We expected to meet with the school today. That may or may not be possible. You can remember the actual implementation of the school's decision took place on the 15th, which was Tuesday. And as we speak, the information that we have, because we have been seeking those information, is that out of the unionized staff, and I can speak with authority about the unionized staff, because SU is the second largest employer in the country, the largest private sector employer. Yes, the vast majority of the unionized staff are vaccinated, probably over 90%. The close to 50 workers, just under 50, who are not vaccinated, we are engaging in a discussion addressing the issue of continuous employment to be paid while they are off. And these are ongoing discussions. The school so far has said that it will not pay. Yes, but these are discussions that we are engaging in with. So about 39, currently there are about, so it was not 49. Currently there are 39 workers, what you call leave of absence, that the school say, look, you can't come on the compound. So these are the people who are not vaccinated. So we have asked the workers, and I want to repeat that you ought not to resign. Once you resign, you take away the ability of the union to be able to make that intervention. But there's a broader discussion. The broader discussion has to do with not just vaccination as it relates to SGU. Okay, SGU is only a part of Grenada. The question of what is our best chance of surviving an onslaught if there is an outbreak similar to what is happening in Trinidad, what is happening in St. Kitts, right? And I genuinely ponder, and I know the leaders of the unions are pondering this. I know that workers are pondering this. I know that, but most of the population is pondering this. What will happen if there is an outbreak and we have to shut down again? And we in Tau is acutely aware of this, because I said we have in Spice Inn, we have Real Value, we have other workplaces where workers have not seen any income since March or so last year. A number of other unions have that challenges. So it is a complex matter that we are trying to grapple with. And for the workers in SGU, and I should also indicate that one of the main concerns that the workers in SGU have, that is those who have not taken the vaccine, was whether or not, as of the 15th, if they didn't turn up, the school can accuse them of abandoning their work, their job. I mean, that's a legitimate fear and concern. We have informed the workers that that cannot happen. As a matter of fact, the school correspondents to the workers have indicated to them that should your status change, make contact with the school. Are you following me? So we advise the workers, out of that concern, that it would not be the best thing to turn up to the gate. So let me be frank about that. We advise the workers not to turn up to the gate, but we also gave the commitment. And we have that duty that even if it is one worker who was present on the gate on the 15th, we have a duty and an obligation to be there. Myself went there. Yes, so these are some of the issues and challenges in a nutshell, and I know there'll be more discussion as we go forward.
So what you're saying is the workers that were at the gate, those that we saw in the news footage on the GBN Nightly News, there are more workers than that?
Yes.
Who are concerned?
Yes, as we speak, there are about 39 workers. There are about 39 workers who are not vaccinated. Yes, there are about 39 workers, and that you will call, that the company call leave of absence.
So, of those 39, and how many have been vaccinated? Or that 39 is what percentage of faculty and staff at the institution?
Well, I can speak about the unionized staff. It's about probably 8%.
So the 39 is 8% of the unionized staff.
Yes, roughly 39%.
Well, I'm asking for two reasons. One, I've heard that, the amount of people who do not want to get vaccinated, they don't have the numbers to continue to fight so that they can get a little leeway and not get vaccinated. As well as and that comment was also made in the news, that in terms of herd immunity, nationally, the Ministry of Health has spoken about getting 70 to 80% of the population vaccinated, and then, we could kind of return to what may be the new normal. Why can't something like that, a herd immunity, a percentage of the faculty and staff be implemented instead of 100% vaccination, maybe 80% vaccinated? And if you're telling me it's only 8% of the unionized workers that are not
about 12%.
Vaccinated.
I've just done subject to correction, I've just done a quick calculation, and it's about 11% or so.
Okay,
I agree with you.
That's still
I agree with you. So let me say, that as far as the union is concerned, that no worker should suffer any loss of income, any loss of benefit as a result of not being vaccinated. That's the union's position. Now, we can discuss the aspect of how do you struggle for this. And there are some things I may or may not go into. Are you following me? Right? Obviously, there are strategies, there are tactics, there are issues that are involved that we have to deal with as time goes by. Right? There are some struggles you can win overnight. When I say overnight, that you use by a single threat, or you just do something. Are you following me? You had RBTT where the workers stood out for 5 weeks. Are you following me? Right? And there are some places you can't do that because of the different issues. What is required of those of us who give service to workers in these kind of scenarios is to be able to not lose sight of what is the best approach to take, while at the same time trying to preserve employment. Yes. So that is the issue. We advise workers and still continue to advise workers not to resign. No. If after the union or someone advises you not to do something, you go ahead and do it, then I also have to respect that. And the union have to respect that. So it is one of those complicated issues. We have made the point to SU, and we'll make the point to them again. Whenever we meet with them again, as we are trying to meet today, it may not happen today, it may happen tomorrow, or we need an urgent meeting, that the aspect of, if we accept the science that we have all been following, and that the school is also following, then the aspect of herd immunity must come into play. Right? The aspect of herd immunity must come into play. And therefore, the union would not have been in a position to have that information before the 15th. Because up to the 14th, anyone who said that they will not be vaccinated could still change their mind and get vaccinated on the 14th and report to work on the 15th. Are you following me? right? So one needs hard data apart from the principle. So we advance the principle to SGU. All of these principles have been advanced to SGU. Not only this, we also advance SGU as we have done publicly. We are of the convinced opinion, and strongly so, that if any worker, as would be the case with a number of the workers at SGU, took the vaccine out of concern for the preservation of their jobs, based on the positions of SGU, that if there is any adverse reaction to that worker, whether now or whatever time from now, that the employer, in this case SGU, should be held liable. But I can tell you, SGU's position is that they will not accept liability because what they are doing has been authorized by the government of Grenada. Are you following me? Right? So in other words, it is like a pharmacy being allowed to bring in a medication, and a doctor administers a medication that has been approved by the local authority. Are you following me? So we have raised all of these matters. So I'm just explaining to you and to the general public some of the complicated issues that we are dealing with.
Is there room for compromise? Do you think there is room, or do you think the management at the institution have dug their heels in and 100% and is that?
Well, let me put it this way. Life has taught us in the workers' struggle that there is, once something has not been finalized, and here when I speak about finalized, okay, you reach in and you say, that is it. There's always possibilities. I am always optimistic because compromises can take different forms. And that is why it is important for workers not to resign, because by resigning, you have made a final position. Are you following me? I also want to use the opportunity to our comrades and colleagues, as we told them before, and we told them on Tuesday when I was there, that in this period of fighting the struggle with SGU, as we try to enter into dialogue, there's certain things you should leave for the union to say. I can't say anything. Are you following me? I don't work with SGU. If you blossom working with GBN and there's an issue, you know us, and you have had that experience where you work elsewhere, where we represented you, and it was part of our responsibility. Mm-hmm. It is part of what we always tell workers, that there are certain things that it is better for union officials to say, because we are not the ones who are employed at the workplace. And sometimes it's not about right or wrong, although sometimes it's about right or wrong, because there's some information that can be easily disproved. Are you following me? I would not go into the details. But I want to use this opportunity, and I hope that our colleagues, we have said so to them and to all workers, that it is important to listen to the people who provides you with a service. If you have a medical problem, do not depend on TAU to give you advice as to what medication to take. We might be able to advise you based on our experience which doctor to go to, but you may not take that advice. Which doctor to go to? But if we tell you, take 2 teaspoons full of X or Y medication every day for the next 2 weeks, please don't take it. However, in an industrial relations issue, our experience is well enough for you to be able, despite what doubts you may have, but to at least pay attention to what we advise them, rather than others who have absolutely no clue of what they may or may not be doing, as to how that may potentially make it more difficult to reach compromises. Are you following me?
Okay.
Right? Sure.
We have lots more to discuss, Mr. Lewis, but first let's take a very quick break, and then we're going to come back and continue. We're also going to field some questions from our viewers and listeners. This is To The Point with President General of the Grenada Technical and Allied Workers Union, Andre Lewis. We'll be right back.
I hear? Listen to the ocean, and you will hear a cry for help. The ocean is hurting, and we are the source of the hurt. But we can stop and start to heal our ocean by preventing pollution from getting into our waterways. It can start with you. Join an active organization, or better yet, make a personal commitment. Commit not for just one day in the year, but for the rest of your life. Let's dispose of our plastic and other waste responsibly, and let's start building resilience. Let the healing begin.
This message is brought to you by the OECS Commission with funding from the Government of Norway. Remlit, tackling ocean pollution from tooth to sooth.
Montreal, it's time to line virtually one more time. Gemma Rayburn Baines here for Spice Island Cultural Festival, a celebration of Grenada, Carriacou, and Petit Martinique. This summer's festival is a celebration of life with food, fashion, music, and culture. Join us online Saturday, July 10th, 3 p.m. on Facebook and YouTube at Spice Island Cultural Festival. Info, spiceislandculturalday.com.
Hello, Grenada. This is Albert Dubai Richards from Radio Antilles. Join me this Friday from 8 p.m. along with Jeff Aird and the We Culture team as we go back to the days of great radio programming. Grenada, don't miss it, all right?
Hey folks, you're invited to tune in to Grenada Music to the World program hosted by Eugene Gittens on Saturday mornings from 10 a.m. to 12 noon on Classic Radio 105.5, 105.9, Hot FM 98.5, 98.7, GBN TV, and all their social media platforms. The only totally local music program in Grenada, representing all genres of music. So it's Green's Music to the World on Saturday mornings from 10 a.m. to 12 noon on GBN with the music icon himself, Mr. Eugene Gittens. See you then.
Welcome back to The Point, speaking with President General of the Grenada Technical and Allied Workers Union, Andre Lewis. This morning we're talking all the industrial, or some of the industrial impasses or industrial actions that are being taking place across the island. We started with SGU, and I'm sure there will be more questions on SGU when we get to our viewers and listeners. But before that, I wanted to get the update or some of the latest, Mr. Lewis, on the formerly RBTT, now ACB Bank. What is the latest? I'm going home on evenings. I realized that the protests in front of the institution have ended. What's the latest with the workers at formerly RBTT, now ACB Bank?
Yes, well, the workers, after 5 continuous weeks, I really want to take hats off to these workers, predominantly women, who had almost everything to lose if we didn't handle this thing properly. When some private sector people were waiting in the slips to see the workers lose their jobs. We heard it. I heard the issue of that these are highly paid workers. The union will not be able to maintain them. They are women, the rain is falling, the sun is hot. Yes, and therefore, what are the chance? There's a high chance that the bank may replace these workers, etc., etc. But the workers stood tall. And I'm happy to report, as we did before, that the workers got and the union got what we are looking for. Yes, as a matter of fact, there is a new terminology that workers have coined that they call, based on the amount of people that took that in relation to the issues that we are fighting, they have expressed their deepest appreciation to all of us, themselves included. And therefore I want to thank, and that is what unity can do. But it is not just about unity. There's also unity and the right strategy and tactics being applied at the right time, right? Because sometimes the right thing done at the wrong time can be devastating, in this case for workers. Because if you have an issue that you are right about, or you believe that you're right about, because sometimes sometimes right and wrong depends on the perspective where you are sitting. And many times depends on what you call power play or power relations, or who has a deeper level of conviction that you're able to get what is your rights. Yeah. So we are close. The workers are back inside, as everyone is aware of. We welcome ACB. We now welcome ACB. That's a bank from our sister Caribbean island in Antigua. We look forward to Grenadian customers and clients continuing to do business with ACB. Yeah. We have a good relations with ACB because our fight was with RBC, right? ACB happened to be in the firing line. Yes. And those things happen. Well, I want to give you another example as you speak about ACB, because the SGU matter, as I indicated, also impacted ACB, formerly RBTT. So ACB, RBTT, has a branch located at SGU campus. It is a prime location because SGU have thousands of people interacting there on a daily basis when they're in full swing. Because of the mandate of SGU, that no faculty member, no staff, no student, no worker, no vendor, no contractor, no taxi driver, no one will be allowed to come on the compound without being vaccinated. The bank had a decision to make. Vaccination is not mandatory in the bank. Yes? But the bank has a branch at SGU. The only people who can serve at that branch, remember, they are not employees of SGU. So the arguments that one can make for the employees of SGU were that they have a contract of employment, and they have been working there for 25 years, 30 years, 15 years, 10 years. It might be more difficult to make that argument for someone who is operating a business on SGU compound. Are you following me? With that in mind, if for instance, the workers were not vaccinated, the branch had to close, and some other bank may have opened there because there's a need for financial institution there. And we engage the workers. As a matter of fact, coincidentally enough, in one of the union's engagement with the workers. That's with the union and the workers now. The evening when we finished that meeting, as I stepped out of the meeting hall, so the meeting hall is upstairs, I think it's Chatter Hall, and the bank is located down at the ground floor. As I stepped out, about to head to my vehicle, I heard someone mention my name. When I looked over my shoulder, I recognized that it's the same ACB workers, formerly RBTT, who were coming out ending for the day. I was sort of surprised to see them there still. Yes? And in that conversation with them, the matter came up. And they indicated that, look, boy, they have reservations about the vaccine, but they understand. And they will take it. It made our work easier. You know why? Because just before that, ACB from out of Antigua, that's the headquarters now, had called the union and had spoken to myself. And in the conversation, they started to express concern. What can they do to ensure that they maintain that branch in that location? And by extension, to maintain employment. Because if you have 6 or 7 workers working there and the branch closes, yes, the question would arise, what will happen to those 6 or 7 workers? We undertook as is our responsibility and duty in the issue of maintaining health, life, health, the preservation of job, to engage the workers. So it was about a day or so before that the bank spoke to us, and I did not yet engage the workers because the 15th was a way off. Are you following me? Right? So the most urgent issue that we had to deal with was engagement with SGU workers, and we wanted to do that before early enough. We wanted to do that so that the workers will have time on their hand even before the 15th. Are you following me? But that opportunity presented itself. But here what also developed. There was one worker, and I can say that because they will know who I'm speaking about, the public will not know. I'm giving you some of the complex issues that we as service providers in industrial relations have to deal with. One of the workers said, well, look, I understand this thing here, but I'm really doubtful about this vaccine. So we say, okay, well, here what? If out of 6 of you, 5 is prepared to take the vaccine, yes, it therefore means that it is 1 that have doubts and reluctance. What we will do, we will engage the bank to get someone from the Grand Anse location, that's Wall Street location, who have no difficulty in being vaccinated or who may be vaccinated to switch. Are you following me? So that's where the issue of compromises and working together comes into play. So most matters are not straightforward, but we must not lose sight of the central issue of the right of the worker to decide whether he or she wants to be vaccinated. Yes. At the same time, trying to marry that with the aspect of the preservation of health and trying to mitigate as much as possible the impact if the virus was to come on us, as is happening in Trinidad.
All right, so let's go to viewers and listeners who may have comments, questions, queries, concerns. This is your chance to ask them. Landline 435-2041, WhatsApp 435-2041. Continue to post your comments on Facebook and YouTube. Let's go to the first caller. Good morning, caller.
Morning, Blossom. Morning to your listeners and your viewers, and also morning to Andre. I'm starting because I'll tell you why. This situation is reminding me of what happened slavery at the end of slavery emancipation, when, although the slaves were told they were freed, there was no way to go. They didn't have anything. They didn't have any means. And to me, I've always contended that we haven't really done in this slavery, and the plantation system continues. And then if we have regimes that support these kind of things, then we're in trouble. My thing about it, I would say that blackmail, to me, is also blackmail, because there are other measures that can be used. I mean, why force people? I mean, if the person belligerent, for instance, against that, would we force them to do it? Or why we even have to go to lottery and them kind of nonsense? I mean, I think one of the reasons why we having all that problem is because we have not had any meaningful conversation, and even though Andrea might say, he may disagree with me, but we have not had any meaningful conversation. The only real conversation I have took place when Sons of Youth invited Dr. Velva Bowles. Video radio station refused to carry, but they did a piece of news from it. Unless we have proper conversation and people don't have a WHO and whatever thing. I mean, there are people who've been given medication over the years of vaccination are proven to be and not helpful to them. Let's discuss it, not just pushing down people's throats. It's unfortunate that we are going back into the slavery mode. I mean, come on, let us do better than that.
Thank you very much. Sir Lewis?
Well, look, there are genuine concerns. That's why we have always advocated education. Let me say that also we have made a case to SGU, and they have advanced it themselves also. There is room for exemptions. But obviously, if you say that, look, you can't take it because X or Y reason, you will be responsible to at least make a case for your exemption. Yes? So there's room for exemption there. So I was just advancing what the caller, my good comrade and brother, has advanced. This to us in the labor movement also, and myself, is a matter about health also, because Blossom, you know, when people were dying in the US, and let me say, I will accept without empirical information that the figures in the US and probably through the world has been exaggerated. Meaning that if you say 1 million people died from COVID, a percentage of that may have been regular death that alone. I'm prepared to accept that. I'm not saying it's true, but I'm prepared. But even if we accept that, one must accept that COVID has wreaked havoc, death on millions of people. So even if we have relatives and friends in the United States, and it was impacting us, and even myself, because I have friends, I have relatives in the US. I mean, I have someone extremely close to me that was in the belly that used to be speaking about walking through deceased people, are you following me? And not being sure if she'll be able to speak to us, he or she be able to speak to us later. Because what if she falls down to us, some of her colleagues are falling down? Are you following me? I lived it. But it didn't impact, but that's in the US. You know, I need to really start to hit home in a real way with my comrades, brothers, and sisters, men that I have fought battles with, the union has fought battles with in Trinidad, just outside of us. And we've seen what is happening there. Are you following me? And now I ask ourselves, what will happen to us if there's an outbreak? And therefore, we need to ensure that all the measures, and that is separate and apart from the right of individuals, I'm making a generalized issue, a generalized statement, right? That is why we have advocated that there should be a better sensitization and continuous sensitization, right, to people on this matter, the aspect of suasion, right? So we advocate that, and there will always be doubt. As I said, I have taken it and I've had my doubts. I don't know what will happen to me tomorrow. It might be, but I have accepted, just as how I've used medication, I've had cause to use medication over my lifetime. Yes? And I can tell you, when I pick up one of these things and I see the amount of warnings that they're right at the back of it, I say, look, my doctor told me to take that, let me take it. Are you following me? So I'm indicating, if we start on the premise that COVID is real, if we start on the premise that people are dying from COVID, if we accept that it is a pandemic, and we are not the ones to declare pandemic, we are guided by international institutions, and you may say what you want about the WHO. I'm even dealing with PAHO, Pan American Health Organization, and I'm also dealing with our local doctors. Yes? And when I speak to my colleagues throughout the region, wherever they have had serious cases, there have been a mad clamoring for the vaccine. And I understand. I should also let you know, we made a request of SGO to use the resources to bring in alternative vaccines, because we think that one of the issues, and people have a right, in our view, to choices. But there are some times in life, the choices that you may want, it may not be readily available, all right? And therefore, some critical decisions have to be made. You know, I'm sure a number of us have been following developments in Cuba, and I'm just addressing something when I think that my earlier comrade raised about slavery, etc., and colonialism. The Cuban government has a target, and I am convinced that the majority, if not all of the population, will be vaccinated. And the reason I'm making this point, no one can deny that Cuba is interested in humanity. And the fact that I have not heard any of what we'll call our progressive countries, leaders, come out, they may condemn the commercialization of the vaccine, which is a different discussion. So at one time you hear AstraZeneca being condemned, Pfizer being advanced, all depends on who is advancing what. But what the world have accepted is that vaccination is extremely important in the fight against COVID right now.
So let me ask, there are a few people asking the same question, so I'll just put it together. In the event that there's no compromise in terms of SGU possibly reducing the amount of people they want to get vaccinated from 100% to, let's say, 90 or 80%, in the event that there's no compromise, is the union prepared to take the matter to court? As well as, can any employee take the company to court because they feel like they're being pressured to get vaccinated?
Well, each individual have certain rights, but on their industrial practices, there are certain procedures that ought to be followed. I'll tell you something, Blossom. Here I'll answer you, because we will speak of our strategy and tactics. We had a case against the same SGU that we are absolutely confident about. Up to now, I'm absolutely confident about how right we are. Because this confidence is not based on opinion, but it's based on facts, right? It is like if I have this cell phone in my hand, and it is you and I here, and I know you took the cell phone, and I'm absolutely sure it's you that took the cell phone, that's how confident I am. We won at all levels. labor commissioner, labor minister, arbitration. The school found their way to go to court, and that's where you asked about court. We lost at 2 levels. We are convinced that if we go to the highest level, the Privy Council, we stood a very good chance of winning because we had our doubts. You see the same thing that people are talking about the power relations of SGU. We had our doubts about those things, probably about the possible impact that had. But workers got tired. And after 9 or 10 years, they mandated that we drop the case. The point I'm making, in the case of Lassos, it took us about 13 years, from 2006 to 2019, to find a settlement. And that was done outside of court, eventually. So yes, all options are possible, are available, and will be pursued. But there are some that can be long-winding. Are you following me? So the way we like to approach this thing is to take it one step at a time. The workers we know now, we have asked the school for the list of the workers who have not been vaccinated and the contact numbers, although we ourselves have asked the workers to call and give their names. Are you following me? We did that. We could not have taken workers' name on the Tuesday. We could not have taken workers' name on the Monday, because somebody on the Monday who decided not to take the vaccine may have changed their mind and take it on the Tuesday as some did. Are you following me? Yes? So this thing has to be managed. Our objective is to get the best possible outcome for the worker. What is the best possible outcome? Is to have your employment continued, right? And not to have any loss of income. And in this context, we are trying to address the issue of the denial of SGU right now, of people being able to apply for the annual vacation. This, we think, is extreme, and we will be engaging the school in this. The aspect of the pension and NIS are matters that we will be taking up with the school, because these things have only been implemented as of the 15th, right? And workers will be paid according to the school up to the 14th, that is officially, but we are seeking engagement with the school to see how we can address these issues. And we give that commitment to do all that is within our reach and possibilities and probabilities, with the objective of finding the best possible outcome. Because there might be compromises. There might be compromises. I mean, some workers may want to make some compromises. School may want to make some compromises. Are you following me? Because these are individual decisions. Remember, this is not a case where you are speaking about, let's say, 2% increase for everybody. But this is about an individual worker who may eventually say, well, look, here what? I want you to consider X rather than Y. Are you following me? Right? And people have made individual pronouncements. People have approached us individually for different options. So these are the things that we shall be engaging.
All right, let me see if I can quickly facilitate this caller. Good morning, caller.
Good morning, Blossom. Good morning, Mr. Lewis. Just a quick comment. I know we short on time. Listening to the argument Mr. Lewis is making, it sounds as though, in my opinion, he's allowing his personal belief to upset his professional duty. And I say that because Mr. Lewis says that he has already taken the vaccine because he believes eventually the world has accepted it and so on. Now, this should not be about one's personal, the president's personal opinion or belief. It should be about the workers' rights and the choice of the workers. What I do recommend is that the union uses the dues that have been collected to hire independent doctors or scientists and so on to prove that the vaccine is actually adequate and effective and it does not have side effects that would cause now or later the demise of the workers. I say this to say because the workers have witnessed, based on my research, the workers down there at SGU have witnessed their colleagues falling sick for significant periods after taking the first dose. Based on my research, I have found out that there is a female who took the vaccine and she is now currently on a 3-week sick leave down at SGU there. So we need to remember also that Canada, that has proper equipment, much more equipment than the Grenada General Hospital, they have halted the use of the AstraZeneca vaccine because based on their research, their scientific research, that vaccine is linked to causing blood clots. So this is just my opinion. So thank you.
Thank you very much, caller. So, Luis?
Yeah, sure. I mean, the caller who I know, I mean, we have engaged in discussions before, not on this matter, yes? I mean, it's not always good to try to identify people by their voice, so I wouldn't call a name. I could be wrong. But I know he's one that is very much interested, if my idea of who the person is correct, in public issues and generalized issues, right? And I want to compliment him for his engagement in a number of matters. I don't always agree with him. I may not agree with him, but that is what I would like to see, the interventions of everyone. I want to address one matter, the issue of my personal opinion. I'm not sure if the caller has listened from the start. I spoke about the rights of the worker, and we will do everything for the rights of the worker, individual interests. But I also felt it was important that I, through disclosure, because a number of people may have taken it and reluctant to say that they have taken it. Are you following me? But I felt through disclosure it was important for me to advance and why I took it. And that even in spite of I taking it, I still have my doubts. But I'm guided by some of the same recommendations that he's making by what you call reputable organizations. And in the Caribbean region, the Pan American Health Organization is a body that guides us. All right? So we will continue to represent the workers. There are concerns, yes, but I felt it was important to advance and to say that I myself have doubts. Yes, because you see on the other side too, on the other hand too, I have heard the accusation that some of you service providers in the union may not be making much noise because you feel comfortable that you're safe. Can you take it? Are you following me? In other words, you remain in silent. So it's the opposite argument has been made. And what life has taught us in this struggle, that there will be different views advance concerning the same thing that you are doing. What we need to do is to have an open mind, continue the dialogue, right, and engage the individuals who are directly impacted. Because we have broader issues to deal with. SGU is just a test piece. And not only are they the test piece, and especially where they are concentrated, because one of the other aspects, SGU is very concentrated with people from scores of countries, India, Asia, all different parts coming in, where there are hundreds of thousands of people dying. And therefore the concentration. So we also have to be careful that we also do what may be best to help protect the very set of workers who are working there. Because we also represent Blossom. And that's the interesting part. And that is why we always have to be thoughtful and creative in what we are doing. We are not only representing the vaccinated workers, we are also representing not only the unvaccinated workers, we are also representing the vaccinated workers, right? And therefore there are concerns on different sides. I've had concerns, and other comrades have had concerns from vaccinated workers as to what they think should be done. But we have an obligation to represent the interests of all of our members, and that is what we shall do. There might be different forms, because different environment, you have to be able to assess the environment under which you're operating to know what is best that could be done at a particular time.
So what's the next step with SGU, trying to get a meeting?
The next step with SGU is to have an engagement, an urgent engagement, to address specifically now the workers. Now that we know those who are, or will know those who are not vaccinated, to address their issues. And we will also have to engage these workers. So if any of the workers are listening, please make contact with the union. If you have not yet done so, give us your contact number, because we will need to meet with you, right? Because different workers may have different take as to where they would like to go, or they would like to move forward. Are you following me? Right? So we will need to know that.
All right, Mr. Lewis, thank you very much for being our guest this morning on To The Point. Appreciate it, and looking forward to a speedy resolution to this issue at SGU and, of course, the other matters that the GTAW was involved with. Any latest on the 4% very quickly?
No, there may be a meeting scheduled for next Tuesday with the Minister for Labor and the Public Workers Union and the Grenada Technical and Allied Workers Union, because we have not yet engaged the Minister for Labor. The Labor Commissioner declared deadlock about 2 weeks ago, and I have learned only last night from my comrade Grimes on the PWU that there may be a meeting set. The ministry may have contacted PW for Tuesday coming, so we will see where we go with this.
All right. Thank you so very much, Mr. Lewis. Enjoy the rest of your day. And of course, we'll continue to keep in touch.
Sure. And comrades, I want to ask everyone to remain safe, follow the protocols, right? Let us avoid, we see what is happening in Trinidad. That's how I want to end. Let's try to minimize that as much as is possible. Thank you very much, Blossom. Thanks for having us. And I'm prepared to come back at any time, even if it is tomorrow, for a longer period to even address the SGU matter, because it's one of extreme importance. And I want to tell our workers at SGU, we will be working together with you on this matter as we have said before. Thank you very
Lovely.
much.
Thank you very much. President General of the Grenada Technical and Allied Workers Union, Mr. Andre Lewis, we thank him so much for being our guest this morning. And thank you, viewers and listeners, for tuning in. It's now time for me to make way for Mid-Morning Buzz. I've already stolen some minutes out of the program. I believe it is Janelle that's up next. Enjoy the rest of your thankful Thursday. I'll be back tomorrow morning, God willing. Bye-bye.